Well, time for a quick little update. As you see, the engine is finally in the car. Ran into fuel issues. Didn't do one last week. I don't, or did I? I can't remember. But ran into an issue where I was checking the Mantic triple disc clutch, checking my measurements, and they were off. And so I was working on having milled down the little spacer that goes inside with the slave cylinder and the throwout bearing and all that down inside the transmission there, and just couldn't quite get the measurement right. Tried a couple things and took it to the local machine shop, and I just couldn't figure out how to get it to the right thing. Every time we would make an adjustment, he would mill some off. It didn't seem to make any difference. Finally, figured out what it needed to go thinner, or to take some off to push it back, because I was over. I wasn't in the range. I was over. So did that, and then realized when just as he went to do it that I thought, oh, wait a minute. The whole reason that my measurement was off was because I forgot to subtract my straight edge that I was using, and I forgot to subtract that width. Well, turned out I still needed some taken off, but about half of what I thought needed to be taken off. So I was a little over. So what I ended up finding was washers were about the width that I needed to put back. So I ended up just putting washers on the little plate, the little spacer plate, and that got me so I was in the middle of the acceptable range. I figured I wanted to be in the middle, or as close to as I could. That way, if I was off a little bit here or there, or with a little bit of break-in, I would still be within the tolerance range, instead of being, at the high end or the low end, and then, something was off, and, then you're outside the range. Because I'm wondering if that was, like I said, I think I might have mentioned in a previous one, but if that's what the issue was that I was running into with that clutch, where when I would have it in gear and go to start up, that a lot of times I couldn't pull it out of gear, because it was like it was always engaged, even when the clutch was pushed in. So that a lot of times what I would have to do is kind of start it and then just kind of bump it forward a little bit, boom, and then I could pull the clutch out. But like when you were stopped and shut it off, and then you go to push the clutch in, you couldn't pull it out of gear sometimes. Sometimes you could, sometimes you couldn't. So it was just barely touching a little bit. So now hopefully that takes care of that, because it should be in the middle and within the range. So that took a good week or so to get all that dialed in. And then last Sunday, I don't think I did one. Last Sunday, so I got that fixed on Saturday. Last Sunday I went to put it in and couldn't put it in. Spent like 4 hours trying to get the engine in, couldn't get it in. Just wouldn't line up right. I could get it almost all the way, about a finger width, in. And I'm like, it's like the input shaft is not going into the throwout bearing, or into the hole, and I just couldn't quite get it. So I ended up last Sunday night pulling it out, checked it, and turned out somehow the alignment of the clutch was off, because I had used a clutch alignment disc tool first, so I knew it was worked. But when I pulled it out, it was off a little bit, so it wasn't going in all the way. And I'm like, well, that explains why it wouldn't go in. So I fixed that, and then went to put it in yesterday, and I fought with it for like 5.5 hours. Just couldn't get it to drop down into the pan, get the pan over the hump. And then I did, and it still wouldn't line up. And then it was hitting, the long tube headings were hitting the underside of the car, and it just, I don't know, I just couldn't get things to line up right. So I was about ready to pull it out, and just like, well, maybe the clutch is off again. So I was about ready to pull it out and check it. And so I was rearranging things, and so I dropped the jack that was supporting the transmission, and dropped the engine and let it just sit on the motor mounts. And all of a sudden I was kind of jiggling a little bit, and boom, then it's like snapped almost fully into place. Then I was able to use the bolts, because I wasn't quite close enough for the bolts, or I had some longer bolts, and they would tighten up, but they would get to a point, and then it just like wouldn't suck it in anymore. It's like I was hitting something. So, like I said, I was about ready to give up, and I kind of jiggled a little bit when nothing was supporting it. It was just kind of hanging there, and all of a sudden it snapped into place. So I don't know. It was really weird. Something that I thought was going to take like an hour or hour and a half at the most took, like I said, 5.5 hours. But I finally did get it in. Or in far enough so I was then able to use the bolts, suck it in the rest of the way, and I've been working on today then getting everything plugged in, getting the wires plugged in underneath, all the sensors and the O2s, and the little pieces that that the shifter has got these little rods way back like a year ago or a year and a half ago. I had mentioned that I had problems with those rods kind of popping out, so I had welded a couple of washers over the little plate. Well, I don't know if it was with me messing with the transmission or whatever, but one had completely fallen off, and the little weld completely fallen off, and the other one was half busted. So I re-welded those this morning, and so we should be good there. And like I said, got the engine in, got it locked down, was able to get, like I said, a bunch of the wiring hooked up. I got the wiring harness in. I just put the intake in, and like I said, was working on the lower wiring, and got the cooler lines hooked up for the oil cooler, and just a bunch of stuff like that. So finally starting to make some significant progress. So hopefully soon we'll have everything, the last pieces together, and see if it runs finally, see if everything got fixed, and see if it runs. But that's kind of where we're at. Like I said, finally got the engine in, and intake in, and now, like I said, just got to get, I got the fuel rails in, just got to get all the wiring harness hooked up, supercharger on, and then the radiator and all the hoses and everything up front. But like I said, getting closer, but I won't go any longer. But thanks for watching, and bye.